Hi, I'm Holly Henn. I'm the president and CEO of Critical Business Analysis. And today I am here with John Jackson from Schedule Validator.
Thank you, Holly. John Jackson with Schedule Validator. Schedule Validator's been on the market now for about 8 years. Been working on that product. I've been scheduling for about 40 years, so I look forward to talking about schedule stuff with you.
So can you tell me what was the beginning point of Schedule Validator? Where was the idea that started and why did that idea start? And then kind of take me through the evolution of where you are today.
Scheduling is a relatively new practice in construction. As I mentioned, I've been scheduling for about 40 years and was in the very early phases of it. It's such a new practice that there are limited schedulers in the market per se. I mean, back when I started, there were hardly any schedulers in the market. Now most companies have schedulers, but typically there's all of this data that is in the schedules, but nobody really knows how to get to that data, right? Unless you're a scheduler that knows a certain scheduling software tool. So access to that is limited to the schedulers. And it just takes a lot of work to get in there. If someone sends me a schedule to take a look at it, I have to open up software and try to open up that schedule in the software and set it up to do a review. In my practice of looking at schedules quite a bit throughout the day, looked at the opportunity to just come up with a really quick, easy drag and drop tool where I could drop a schedule file and be able to see any of the information that I really want to be able to see without actually having to open the scheduling software. We developed a tool initially, made it easy for me to drag and drop and get the much quicker analysis of the schedule. And so since then, I've focused a lot on actually making that product better, easier to use, putting dashboards together, making it easier for organizations to review data from not only single schedules, but multiple projects across a portfolio.
The tool that grew out of necessity that you then shared with the market.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And over the last few years, you've really been able to put your time and attention into Schedule Validator.
It's a big part of my focus. Yeah. Every day.
What problems or pain points do you think Schedule Validator is solving in the marketplace?
The initial issue, which was the primary focus in the product initially, was just on improving schedule quality and then to help organizations be able to, establish easy standards on those quality guidelines. So I would say that's probably the primary focus because you have to have quality. When you start talking about reporting and all of that kind of stuff, schedule quality is a big foundational part of that. I would say the next key features are, what we call our key performance indicators. So, once you get a schedule quality, the project starts, you start updating your schedule and you're uploading your updates. Schedule Validator gives real clean, clear scoring for these key performance indicators or KPIs that just really help. You don't have to be an expert scheduler to read it and know what's going on. You can identify issues with projects. For example, three of the basic ones are when I upload a schedule, what do I want to know? I want to know the finish date. Is our finish date moving? The second thing is, are we actually falling behind? And then the third major KPI that we track is what we call execution. In other words, are they really using that schedule to plan their work? Are they executing? With all of that input, we've really defined a very simple, very actionable set of KPIs that can help an organization adjust and pivot and address issues on projects early on.
I've always said that as a project manager, if you have schedule problems, you have budget problems. And you can manage your budgets and it looks like you're making money. But if you're not paying attention to that schedule piece, you can have a surprise from, left field. And then you really have problems. Not only do you have schedule problems, but you have budget problems too, right? And what I like about Schedule Validator is it's like that third party objective cousin or uncle, right? That you can pull into your project and get feedback on your schedule, and it doesn't care who put the schedule together. It's giving you data, statistics, and feedback. And that allows, like you said, other people who aren't on the project every day to be able to look in, get a little window into the health and the schedule data that's on that job. What is your favorite feature of Schedule Validator?
Favorite feature is the Windows analysis. That's probably the feature that I use the most. It's the one I mentioned that I can tell if a project's falling behind, even though the end date may not be moving, right? Because it's looking at the critical path of a project and it's making a determination. It's saying, hey, based on the critical path from your last schedule, you should be right here today. And then it looks at the current schedule and it says you're 10 days behind where you said you were going to be. It's a very clear indicator not only of how well the team is progressing, but it really helps identify delays early.
How does Schedule Validator identify those delays?
In that particular report that I'm referencing, just tells me right up front that on my dashboard that the project slipped 10 days, using an example, in the last month. The critical path did. So if the end date didn't move, I know they had to compress the remaining work of the project so that the end date, bring that end date back in 10 days, right? Our scheduler had to do some compression to make that happen. I can see, though, on a month-to-month basis, here is a delay that's impacting the job now. In fact, one of the things that really drove this particular analysis home to me was a friend of mine one time that called me and said, I need your help. We have a project that the owner just called me, and we've been reporting that we're on schedule every month, and now they're telling me they don't think we're going to finish probably 3 to 6 months late. And he said, my project team has been telling me that we're on schedule and showing an on-schedule completion. And he said, I called the project manager to ask him what was going on, and first words out of the project manager's mouth was, I quit. And so, this executive, my friend, was stuck with that, make that up. And had they been doing this type of analysis that we're talking about, they would have known right away. There's delays going on. And in this particular case, actually a lot of the delays were not that particular party's fault, but because they didn't notify, they didn't meet notice requirements, the project team just kept pretending like these were not going to be issues. Ended up being a big mess. It's a really quick identifier. And if you identify delays quickly, whether you're on the owner side, contractor side, subcontractor side, whatever, you can almost always get a much quicker resolution of disputes, much better resolution because it's fresh on everyone's minds and things get resolved much better when you identify those early. That's probably one of the most significant benefits for having a tool like this.
I think the story you just told is it's a story as old as time and happens on a lot more construction projects than people probably want to admit to themselves. And not everybody has the skill or experience to be able to really look ahead and on the complicated consequences from a delay and how that can affect your end date. And even the best schedulers in the world can't possibly anticipate everything that can come from that one thing that happened on Monday afternoon. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 or 4 weeks to really start to be felt and seen in the field. And that's where a tool like Schedule Validator will save you those 4 or 5, 6 or 8 weeks that have passed. Because if you're using it, you're going to see it within a week. You're going to see it within, at max, 10 days, right?
Yeah, I saw some statistics. Average projects delayed 20 days a year, I think is the number. So 20 working days is almost 10% of the working days in the year. So that's a lot of delay that occurs. And when you put that in context of a company or an organization, an agency or a contractor, that's a lot of money, right? That's just going out the door. If you figure projects, you're running $5,000, $10,000 a day in overhead. And some of those projects are a lot more than that, $50,000, $60,000 a day in overhead. 20 days, that starts adding up. And so it's not just a matter of finding it and fixing it, but even if you're identifying those delays early, you're going to come out a lot better in resolving any kind of delay, time extension issues. Settlements go better, just have much better success in either collecting or saving that money from just an overhead expense, not counting all the other expenses that go into running a project like that. But so those days add up a lot. So if you're not careful, particularly as a contractor, you don't have a good quality schedule, you don't have tracking of what's going on, on there, you're losing time, you're losing money, and a lot of times you're not aware of it. And when you do, that's the main, the thing about Schedule Validator. It just makes it easy. So there's really no excuse. You don't have to be a scheduling guru to work it. It's designed for, project managers, superintendents, schedulers to be able to do it, run schedule analytics, schedule quality, and it has a big impact on the bottom line for organizations that utilize it.
We're going to the Project Controls Expo in DC in October with Schedule Validator. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you attended last year and what you think of that conference?
I've actually attended the last couple of years, and it's a great venue for just seeing the latest tools out there. Obviously, there are a lot of vendors there that are really focused on the control space. There's a lot of great organizations that attend and present. It's a great learning experience. For me personally, it's a great opportunity to network, meet your peers and your colleagues across the various organizations and companies like CBA. There, you have the opportunity to see some of the best companies in the business. I appreciate the opportunity to come and participate.
Thank you.